In New York City, 1 in 4 women has fallen for a man who's already spoken for. I read that statistic in a magazine once, and it hit me like a subway train. 60% of those secret relationships last longer than 2 years, according to Psychology Today. I paused, staring at the page, my coffee going cold. That was me. I was one of them. My name is Sarah Thompson, and for 3 years, I loved a man who could never truly be mine. This is the story of how I woke up and why love sometimes just isn't enough. I'm 28, a Scorpio through and through, passionate, intense, always feeling everything too deeply. I work as a senior marketing coordinator at TechFlow Inc., a fintech startup in Manhattan. My salary's $78,000 a year, which sounds decent until you factor in my $2 100 a month studio apartment in Astoria, Queens. It's a shoebox, but it's mine. I've always been an overachiever, pushing myself to prove I'm enough. Probably because deep down, I've never quite believed it. I'm a people pleaser, always saying yes when I want to scream no. My dad walked out when I was 11, leaving me and my mom in a crumbling Brooklyn walk-up. She spiraled into depression, and I learned early to fend for myself. By the time I was 18, I was juggling 2 jobs and a full course load at NYU. My career's solid now, but my love life? It's been a ghost town. Until him. Have you ever grown up missing something you can't name? That ache for love, for someone to see you, really see you? That's been my shadow my whole life. I thought I'd found the answer in Michael Chen, my coworker, my confidant, my everything. I was wrong. Michael's 36, a Capricorn, ambitious, polished, the kind of guy who commands a room without trying. He's the sales director at TechFlow, pulling in $125,000 a year. He's the son of Taiwanese immigrants, raised under crushing pressure to be perfect. 9 years ago, he married Lisa, his college sweetheart. They have 2 kids. Sophie, who's 8, and David, who's 5. On paper, his life looks flawless. A Park Slope brownstone, family vacations, matching holiday card photos. But Michael's been unraveling for years. His marriage has been sexless for 2, a slow bleed of connection that left him feeling like a stranger in his own home. He's charming, emotionally intelligent, but he dodges conflict like it's a live grenade. He's not a villain, though. He's just a man caught between expectations and his own fear of failing everyone. I met Michael in October 2021, at a time when my life felt like a treadmill, running hard, going nowhere. TechFlow's office was all glass walls and ping pong tables, the kind of startup vibe that screams, "We're fun, but also work 80 hours a week." I'd been there a year, grinding through campaigns, pitching ideas to clients who barely listened. My days were a blur of subway commutes, oat milk lattes, and late nights staring at my laptop. My apartment was my sanctuary, even if it was just 400 square feet of IKEA furniture and takeout containers. I'd light a candle, put on a playlist, and try to convince myself I was fine. But I wasn't. I was lonely, and I didn't even know how to admit it. Michael's office was 2 floors above mine, a corner suite with a view of the Hudson. I'd seen him in meetings, always sharp in a tailored blazer, cracking just the right joke to lighten the room. He had this way of looking at you, like you were the only person who mattered. I noticed his wedding ring early, a thin gold band that caught the light when he gestured. It didn't stop me from noticing him, though. I told myself it was harmless. A crush. A distraction. I didn't know then that it would become my whole world. Our story started at a company retreat, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Picture this. New York in the fall, leaves crunching underfoot, the air sharp with possibility. TechFlow's office buzzed with startup energy, free snacks, cold brew on tap, and a culture that celebrated hustle while quietly burning us out. I was good at my job, maybe too good. I'd stay late, tweak presentations, chase perfection. But no matter how many wins I racked up, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. I'd scroll through dating apps, swipe left on guys who seemed nice but safe, boring. I wanted more. I wanted magic. If you've ever felt that hollow ache for connection, that longing for someone to make you feel alive, then you get it. You know why I fell so hard. You know why I ignored the red flags. This is my story, but it's not just mine. It's for anyone who's ever loved the wrong person and had to find their way back to themselves. So tell me, have you ever felt like you're missing a piece of your heart? Like this video, if you have. Let's dive into how it all began. I stood on the balcony of the Mohonk Mountain House, the crisp October air biting my cheeks. Upstate New York was a riot of fall colors: reds, oranges, golds. Like the world was on fire. TechFlow's company retreat was supposed to be 3 days of team building nonsense, but I was already counting the hours until I could escape back to my apartment. I'm an introvert, always have been. Crowds drain me, and small talk feels like pulling teeth. But that weekend in October 2021, something shifted. That's when I met him. Really met him. Michael Chen. The man who'd turned my life upside down. Day one of the retreat, I was picking at a salad in the dining hall, alone at a corner table, scrolling my phone to avoid looking awkward. I felt his presence before I saw him, that kind of quiet confidence that fills a room. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. His voice was warm, teasing, but not cruel. I glanced up, startled. Michael Chen, sales director, was sitting there, wedding ring glinting under the chandelier light, a half smile on his face. I laughed, more out of nerves than humor. "Is it that obvious?" I said. He leaned back, studying me. "Only to someone who feels the same way." That was the first spark. We talked for an hour about feeling like outsiders, about the pressure to perform in a city that never sleeps. It was easy, too easy. Have you ever met someone who just gets you right from the start? Day two, things got deeper. We were paired up for a hiking activity, trudging through trails lined with maple trees. I was distracted, thinking about a campaign deadline when I tripped on a root and twisted my ankle. Pain shot through me, and I crumpled to the ground, embarrassed. Before I could wave it off, Michael was there, kneeling beside me. "You okay?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I nodded, but my ankle throbbed. He helped me up, slinging my backpack over his shoulder like it weighed nothing. "When was the last time someone took care of you?" he said, his voice soft but piercing. I froze. My throat tightened and tears pricked my eyes. I couldn't remember. My dad left when I was 11. My mom was barely present after that, and I'd been carrying myself ever since. I looked away, blinking hard. That was the first crack in my walls. Michael saw it, and he didn't push. He just stayed close, steady. By day 3, I was in trouble. The retreat ended with a bonfire under a sky full of stars. The air smelled of wood smoke and pine, and everyone was laughing, drinking, letting loose. Michael and I ended up sitting on a log, a little apart from the group. The firelight danced across his face, and I noticed the way his jaw tightened when he talked about his childhood, immigrant parents, endless expectations, no room for mistakes. I told him about my dad, how his absence left a hole I'd been trying to fill my whole life. "I just want to feel enough," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked at me, really looked at me. "You are enough, Sarah, more than enough." My heart stuttered. We leaned closer, the space between us electric. Our lips almost touched. Almost. But we both pulled back. "This feels dangerous," I said, my voice shaky. He smiled, bittersweet. "The best things usually do." Guess what happens when you play with fire? Back in the city, the real world hit hard. TechFlow's office was all glass and noise, but Michael and I had our own little bubble. Week 1, it was innocent. He'd bring me coffee, an oat milk cortado, exactly how I like it. "Just being friendly to the new team member," he'd say, but his eyes lingered a second too long. I'd catch myself smiling at my desk, replaying the way he said my name. He remembered. Week 2, we started grabbing lunch to discuss the Johnson project. We picked a dim sum place in Chinatown, far from colleagues' prying eyes. Over steaming baskets of dumplings, our conversations drifted from work to dreams, fears, regrets. He told me about his marriage, how it felt like a contract now, not a partnership. I told him about my mom, how her depression made me grow up too fast. It was like we were peeling back layers, seeing each other's raw edges. Week 3, things escalated. team drinks at a bar in the East Village, but somehow only we showed up. We stayed until closing, talking about everything: music, books, the way New York makes you feel alive and crushed at the same time. I told him about my dad leaving, how it made me afraid to trust. He listened, really listened. "You deserve someone who stays," he said, his hand brushing mine on the table. My stomach flipped. That night, I went home buzzing, my heart screaming what my head wouldn't admit. I was falling for him. By month 2, we were in deep. Our texts went from work slacks to personal phones. Good morning messages, good night messages. "Thinking of you," at 2 a.m. I'd wake up to his name on my screen and feel a rush, like I was finally seen. We were having an emotional affair, and I knew it. But I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I felt alive. Then came the company holiday party, December 15th, 2021. A rooftop bar in Manhattan, twinkling lights, snow dusting the skyline. I wore a red dress, hoping he'd notice. He did. We avoided each other at first, circling like planets afraid to collide. But the champagne flowed and inhibitions melted. When "The Way You Look Tonight" started playing, he held out his hand. "Dance with me," he said. It wasn't a question. We swayed, my head against his chest, his heartbeat loud in my ear. Under the mistletoe, it happened. He kissed me, passionate, desperate, like he'd been starving for it. I kissed him back, the world falling away. But the second we pulled apart, guilt crashed in. His wedding ring burned in my peripheral vision. My stomach twisted. The next morning, we met for coffee, both of us raw. "We can't do this," I said, my voice shaking. "I know," he said, but his eyes said something else. "But I can't stop thinking about you." I should have walked away. I should have seen the cliff we were sprinting toward, but I didn't. I chose him over logic, over everything. Have you ever made a decision with your heart knowing your head was screaming no? Comment below. I need to know I'm not alone. That kiss was the point of no return. It wasn't just a moment. It was a promise, a lie, a spark that would burn us both. I thought I was falling in love. I didn't know I was falling apart. The first time I said "I love you" to Michael, it was through a signal message at 1 a.m., my heart pounding as I hit send. His reply came seconds later: "I love you too." I stared at my phone, the glow lighting up my tiny Astoria apartment, and felt like I was floating. That was January 2022, a month after our kiss at the holiday party. I thought those words meant forever. I didn't know they'd trap me in a life of secrets, sacrifices, and red flags I was too blind to see. For 3 years, I lived in the shadows of Michael's world, convincing myself it was enough. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Let me take you through the slow unraveling of my heart. Our affair settled into a rhythm, like a song you know is wrong but can't stop humming. We had a system, meticulous and secretive, to keep our worlds from colliding. Lunch was always at Namwa Tea Parlor in Chinatown, a bustling spot packed with tourists where no one from TechFlow would spot us. I'd order dumplings, he'd get noodle soup, and we'd steal an hour laughing over nothing, our knees brushing under the table. Dinner was trickier, Williamsburg or Park Slope restaurants, far from Manhattan's corporate orbit. Weekends were rare, but when Lisa took the kids to her mom's in Philadelphia, we'd book a hotel in New Jersey. Those nights felt like stolen treasure. Room service, tangled sheets, whispers in the dark. I lived for them. Communication was our lifeline. At work, we kept Slack professional. Can you review the Q1 deck? But on our personal phones, it was different. Good morning texts, late night calls, endless messages on Signal where we said the things we couldn't say aloud. "I miss you." "You're my safe place." "I love you." I'd reread his messages in my apartment, curled up on my couch, feeling like I was part of something real. Money was tight for me. $400 a month went to our lunches, dinners, the occasional Uber to Jersey. That was 20% of my disposable income, but I called it an investment in happiness. Michael paid for hotels and most dinners, his credit card a quiet reminder of his life beyond me. I didn't care. I told myself it was worth it. But love like that comes at a cost, and I paid it in pieces of myself. My career was the first to take a hit. 6 months in, a promotion came up. Marketing manager, $95,000 a year, but it required travel to LA. I turned it down. I can't be away from Michael, I told myself, ignoring the pity in my boss's eyes. Colleagues started whispering about my lack of ambition, but I brushed it off. My social life crumbled next. I canceled girls' nights when Michael was free, ghosted friends who wanted to set me up, deleted my dating apps. I'm busy, I'd say, but the truth was I was waiting for him. My friends drifted away, their texts unanswered, their invites ignored. Jessica, my best friend, called me out. Sarah, you're disappearing. I laughed it off, but it stung. Family was harder to dodge. I lied to my mom about my relationship status, dodging her questions about settling down. You're 28, Sarah. When will you find someone? She'd ask, her voice heavy with worry. I skipped Thanksgiving to spend a rare weekend with Michael, telling her I had a work trip. The guilt gnawed at me, but I pushed it down. My hobbies, yoga, book club, pottery, faded away. I stopped going to classes, my pottery wheel gathering dust in my closet. Even my wardrobe changed. I started wearing tighter dresses, lower necklines, things I thought Michael liked. I looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize myself. Who was I without him? That sick feeling in your stomach? I had it too. The red flags were there, waving like sirens, but I ignored them. First, the isolation. Michael never introduced me to his friends. Work and personal should stay separate, he'd say, and I nodded, convincing myself it was for our protection. I was never invited to work events as his date, never met anyone from his life outside TechFlow. I told myself it was fine. He was private, cautious. Then there was his refusal to plan a future. I'd mentioned someday, a vacation, a home together, and he'd change the subject. Let's focus on now, he'd say, his smile tight. I'd drop it, afraid to push. His phone was another warning. He never left it unattended, always took calls in another room. He respects my privacy, I told myself, even as doubt crept in. Holidays were the worst. Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day, he spent them with his family. I'd sit alone in my apartment, ordering takeout, scrolling through his family's perfect Instagram posts. Christmas 2022, I ate pad thai on my couch, tears streaming down my face as I saw Lisa's post, grateful for my rock, with a photo of Michael and the kids by a tree. I told myself I understood. Family came first. But it hurt. It hurt so much. The manipulation was subtle, insidious. You're the only one who understands me, he'd say, his voice low, pulling me closer. My marriage is complicated, you wouldn't get it. When I asked for more, he'd turn it on me. If you really loved me, you'd be patient. I'd apologize, hating myself for questioning him. My friends saw it clearer than I did. Jessica cornered me one night. Girl, you're 28, wasting your prime years on a man who won't even take you to dinner on your birthday. Amanda, a coworker, was blunter. I've seen this movie before. It doesn't end with him leaving his wife. I snapped back defensive. You don't understand what we have. But deep down, I wondered, what red flag would you never ignore? Comment below, I wish I'd listened sooner. By 2023, I was a shadow of myself. My apartment felt emptier, my days a cycle of waiting for Michael's texts, his calls, his stolen hours. I'd check my phone obsessively, my heart leaping at his name, sinking when it was someone else. I stopped dreaming about my future, my MBA, my own marketing firm. All I could see was him. I told myself it was love, but it felt like drowning. I was losing myself to keep a man who wasn't mine, and I didn't know how to stop. The tension built like a storm. I'd catch myself staring at his wedding ring during lunch, the gold a silent accusation. I'd lie awake at night replaying his words, searching for promises he never made. My friends' warnings echoed in my head, but I pushed them away. I wanted to believe in us, in him. I wanted to believe I was enough. But the truth was creeping in, sharp and unforgiving. I was his secret, his escape, not his future. And that truth was about to break me. What I discovered next changed everything. I wasn't ready for it, but life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just hits you, hard, and you either sink or swim? Guess what I chose? Stick around to find out. Valentine's Day 2024 was supposed to be the night everything changed. I spent hours preparing, my tiny Astoria apartment glowing with candles, the air thick with the scent of Korean BBQ, Michael's favorite. I'd splurged $200 on lingerie, a reckless dent in my budget, but I told myself it was worth it. Tonight, I thought, he'd finally see me. Really see me. Maybe he'd give me the commitment I'd been chasing for 3 years. I was 28, tired of being his secret, tired of waiting. I wanted a timeline, a promise, a future. Instead, I got the truth, and it shattered me. Stop. Before I continue, you need to know this. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just breaks you first. I stood in my kitchen, stirring bulgogi, my heart racing every time my phone buzzed. Michael was late, 2 hours late. He'd texted about a family dinner running long, and I swallowed my disappointment, telling myself it was fine. When he finally knocked, I opened the door to find him distracted, his eyes darting to his phone. Sorry, he mumbled, setting his coat on the chair. Sophie had a meltdown, and Lisa needed me to stay. I nodded, forcing a smile, but my chest tightened. The table was set, roses in a vase, my hope laid bare. We sat, but the meal felt like a performance. He barely touched the food, his mind somewhere else. I couldn't take it anymore. Michael, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Do you actually love me? Like, really love me? The question hung in the air, heavy, desperate. He froze, his fork hovering over his plate. 3 seconds of silence. 3 seconds that said everything. Of course I do, he finally said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. His tone was defensive, hollow. I pushed harder, my voice cracking. Then when are you leaving Lisa? It's been 3 years. I need a timeline. I can't keep being your secret. My hands shook, but I held his gaze. I needed an answer. I deserved one. He sighed, leaning back, his face a mask of discomfort. Sarah, it's complicated, he started, but I cut him off. No, don't give me that. I've given up everything, my friends, my career, my life, for you. I need to know this is going somewhere. My voice broke, tears burning my eyes. That's when the anger hit me like a freight train. I'd been patient, loyal, invisible for him, and he couldn't even look at me. Have you ever poured your heart out only to realize the other person's already checked out? Then it came, the confession that tore my world apart. Michael rubbed his temples, his voice low. Lisa had an affair, he said. I blinked, stunned. With Marcus, her personal trainer. 18 months ago. It went on for 6 months. My mind reeled. He'd known for over a year and never told me? How'd you find out? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Credit card charges, he said. Hotel rooms, dinners, gifts. Then I saw her texts. She didn't even try to hide it. I stared at him, my heart pounding. You confronted her? He nodded. She cried, begged for forgiveness, said it was a mistake. I waited, expecting the rest. Divorce, freedom, us. But he looked away. I chose to work on our marriage. The words hit like a slap. You stayed with someone who cheated? I asked, my voice rising. He nodded, his jaw tight. For Sophie and David. For stability. I laughed, bitter, disbelieving. Stability? You're here with me. He flinched, but I wasn't done. That's when he laid out the brutal logic, layer by layer, like he was pitching a deal at work. Divorce would cost me half my 401k, $150,000, he said. Child support would be $2,000 a month for over a decade. I'd lose the house, have to rent a studio in this city. Sophie's got an anxiety disorder. She needs routine. David just started kindergarten. I can't disrupt that. He paused, then added, softer. Lisa's affair was physical. Ours is emotional. It's not the same. I felt sick. You can forgive her cheating but won't commit to me? I said, my voice trembling. He looked down. It's not the same thing. I stood, pacing, my hands in my hair. You're right. She betrayed you, but I've been faithful. I've given you everything, and You still choose her. The realization hit like a punch. I was never his future, just his escape. I'd been fighting for a man who'd already made his choice. You think you know where this is going? Think again. The room felt too small, the candles mocking me. I turned on him, my voice sharp. I was never your priority, was I? Just a way to feel alive while you stayed comfortable. He opened his mouth, but I kept going. You love the idea of me, not me. If you wanted to be with me, you would be. His defenses crumbled, but they were weak to begin with. It's not that simple, Sarah, he said. You don't understand marriage, the complexities. I cut him off. I understand enough. I understand I deserve to be someone's everything, not their secret. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking, but sure. We're done, I said, blocking his number right there, his eyes widening. I walked to my drawer, pulled out the spare key he'd given me for emergencies, and pressed it into his hand. Take it, I said. I opened my phone, deleted every photo of us, hundreds of moments gone in seconds. The lingerie, the dinner, the roses, it all felt like a cruel joke. I looked at him standing there, small and defeated. Get out, I said. He hesitated, then left, the door clicking shut behind him. I sank to the floor, my chest heaving, but for the first time in years, I felt free. The silence was deafening, but it was mine. I'd spent 3 years chasing a man who'd never choose me, and in that moment, I chose myself. It hurt. God, it hurt. But it was the kind of pain that promised healing. I wasn't his anymore. I was mine. Subscribe now. My healing journey will show you what's possible when you reclaim your power. What would you do if you realized you were someone's escape, not their home? I chose to walk away. What would you choose? The door clicked shut behind Michael, and I collapsed onto my apartment floor, the silence swallowing me. Valentine's Day 2024 was supposed to be our turning point. Instead, it was my breaking point. I'd given 3 years to a man who'd never choose me, and now I was alone, surrounded by candles and cold Korean BBQ. But in that pain, something shifted. I chose myself. The road to healing wasn't easy. It was messy, raw, and beautiful. This is how I rebuilt my life, and what I learned along the way. If you've ever had to start over, you'll get this. Share this story with someone who needs it. The first 2 weeks were brutal. I called in sick to TechFlow, unable to face the office where Michael's presence lingered. I binge-watched How to Get Away with Murder, letting Viola Davis's fierce energy drown out my thoughts. I cried in the shower, deleted 847 photos of us, threw away every gift he'd given me, a scarf, a playlist, a cheap necklace I'd worn like a talisman. One night at 3 a.m., I hit rock bottom, sobbing on my bathroom floor, clutching my phone, tempted to unblock him. But I didn't. I was done being his escape. That moment, raw and ugly, was where my healing began. In March, I started therapy with Dr. Rodriguez, a Latina therapist whose warmth made me feel safe. She diagnosed me with an anxious attachment style, rooted in my dad's abandonment and my mom's depression. You're not broken, Sarah, she said. You're responding normally to an abnormal situation. Those words cracked something open. I learned how my childhood shaped my need to please, to cling to love that hurt. Therapy wasn't a fix. It was a mirror, showing me who I'd been and who I could become. Have you ever realized your past was steering your present? By April, I was ready to rebuild. I joined Equinox Gym, $200 a month I couldn't really afford, but it was an investment in me. I took pottery classes at a Brooklyn studio, my hands shaping clay into something new, something mine. Weekends, I hiked in the Catskills, the fresh air clearing the fog in my chest. I started dreaming again about my career, my future. I applied for the marketing manager role I'd turned down before, the one with the $95,000 salary. When I got it, I moved to a better apartment in Williamsburg, a place with sunlight and space to breathe. I was coming back to myself, piece by piece. Michael faced his own consequences. He tried texting me once, a weak, "I miss you," that went unanswered. I'd blocked him for good. At work, it was awkward at first, stolen glances in meetings, but I transferred to a different team after my promotion. We kept it professional, a mutual respect born of necessity. Later, I heard he'd started therapy, grappling with guilt and regret. His therapist told him he'd used me to avoid fixing his marriage. He was still in that loveless marriage, trapped by his own choices, but now he knew it. Actions have consequences, even for the one who walks away. 6 months later, I was different. I was dating again. Single, available men who saw me as their everything, not a secret. I set boundaries clear and firm, no compromises. My career was thriving. I was even considering an MBA. I rebuilt my friendships, hosting wine nights with Jessica and laughing until my sides hurt. Therapy, fitness, pottery, hiking, they weren't just hobbies, they were my anchors. I was thinking about adopting a rescue dog, a symbol of nurturing myself. A man who loves you won't make you his secret. You can't love someone into choosing you. Your worth isn't tied to someone else's blindness. And sometimes, the person you'd take a bullet for is hiding behind the trigger. My story isn't unique, but my ending can be. I chose myself, and that made all the difference. The right person will choose you every day, no hesitation, no conditions. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your healing journey matters. Subscribe for more stories about love, loss, and finding yourself.